Hi, Mike here with another Badonsky Buccaneers video fishing report. It's February, and that means it's greater amberjack season, which typically begins at the first of the year. Today, February 2nd, 2017, I'm taking a couple of our friends from Michigan, Mark and his wife Tina. They've been coming to the Gulf Coast for quite a few years and love fishing almost as much as I do. So we're going to check a few spots to see how many different species we can put in the fish box, but our main objective today will be to get our limit of amberjack. On our way out, we run across a school of feeding bonita, a nice addition to the bait box, and a fun fight on lighter tackle. This was Mark's first bonita, and he commented on how hard it fought, like a much bigger fish. Next, we head another 30 miles to the southeast towards the nipple in search of clean water and hopefully a wahoo. Our Fish Track subscription identified the area on this chlorophyll shot from Wednesday. I decided to pick up the game by putting two lures out on our Tiagras. We found some water hyacinth debris along an undefined edge of cleaner water, so we trolled along and through and beyond the line, but never got a hit on our lures and didn't see any fish activity. So, not wanting to waste a lot of time trolling, I headed back to the edge where we could do some bottom fishing for snapper as well as finding some live baits for amberjack fishing later. We caught a lot of smaller vermilion snapper, but also several larger keepers like this one Mark has, as well as a small ruby lip, which might be a good bait for later. Here Tina has another larger vermilion. We had a good time here catching lots of fish. They were using our Shimano Dakotas with a standard chicken rig for terminal tackle, and we're using fresh frozen squid for bait. Here I'm fighting a modest-sized Alamaco jack to the boat, also very good eating. Today I'm using my Calcutta 700 on a Star Paraflex rod. We also hooked up on a couple small greater amberjack, and Mark hooked a small sand shark and almost got it to the boat before it broke loose. Not long after noon, we decide we have enough ruby lips in the live well and start our hunt for amberjack. After checking a couple of spots, we decide on the Lulu. Once there, it doesn't take long before we're dialed in on the fish, and after a couple of missed shots and one break off on the wreck, we set Mark up on the Penn Squall 50 so he has a good chance of getting a nice sized fish on the boat. And the fight is on. Again, we're using the Penn Squall 50 to winch these fish off the wreck before they can foul the line up on it and break us off again. At one point, a large sand shark has Mark's fish by the tail just feet under the boat, but loses it, so I snatch the fish on board before the shark has a second chance. That's a nice fish there, Mark. Once up, the shark hangs around the boat just off our stern for a while, but that doesn't stop us from fishing. After a short break, I start setting up for the next fish. Now it's Tina's turn, and not long after dropping the bait down, she has a taker. And her fight is on. This isn't a gentle Pacific kahala like you've caught before in Hawaii. This way, donkey can pull you overboard. I have to tease some. Mark and Tina have fished quite a few locations around North America, including Hawaii and Alaska, catching everything from halibut to an 83-pound kahala in Maui, which is a Pacific amberjack. She gets him close to the boat and I snatch him on board. Nice fish, Tina. Now, with sunset approaching, having run out of bait and still one amberjack short of our goal, I decide to make a stop at the Allen wreck on the way in. Only in about 100 foot of water, this is an excellent spot to use one of the twins, one of my Penn Spinfisher 8500 combos with a Shimano flatfall jig. And with bonita and amberjack hitting the top of the water all over the place here, I hook up with little effort. The trick here is I just broke the wind-on leader off on this pin and in haste tied a new flatfall jig straight to the main line with no leader. Guess I was feeling lucky. With some luck and finesse fighting, I managed to get this amberjack to the boat. And Mark does a fine job of gaffing it for me. Great job, Mark. Not bad for a novice. Now that was a full day of fishing. We'll need a whole day to recuperate from that workout, but we have a fine assortment in the fish box to show for it. Glad to have you on board, Mark and Tina. We'll hope we can do it again soon. Stay tuned. Next, I'm going to take my wife Cookie out and we're going to catch some more amberjack. Next Sunday, February 5th, 2017, my wife Cookie and I make a run out for a quick morning trip to get some more amberjack to put in our freezer. With talks about a shortened season for greater amberjack this year, I'd better make a couple extra trips while the weather is favorable and stock up on some. Well, the seas were not quite as calm as they were on Thursday, but we toughed it out and ran out to the island wreck near the Baldwin Trolling Corridor to try a few spots for ruby lips and porgies for live bait. We didn't do very well while trying to catch bait. The wind and the current made it difficult to lock onto a good spot. But while I was here, I did throw a Shimano flatfall jig to see if there might be any amberjack on the wreck today, but the only thing I found were red snapper. And being out of season, of course, we released them. We'll be back in a few months when the federal season opens to collect on these guys. Next, we run over to the Wallace wreck, usually a great go-to spot for me to find live bait for amberjack, and sometimes we can pick up a few vermilion snapper for the dinner table. But right off the bat, we're catching several triggerfish and more red snapper, including this decent-sized one. And today we have a visitor, as a dolphin takes advantage of our smaller catch-and-release snapper for his breakfast. Both the Allen and Wallace reefs were part of a joint effort by local and federal agencies to deploy several World War II Liberty ships as reefs along the Alabama Gulf Coast in the mid-1970s. They have made very productive fishing locations and support a variety of reef and pelagic fishes year-round. Well, we finally tune in on some live bait fish, some smaller ruby lips, and a couple decent-sized porgies, as well as a few vermilion snapper. I also catch a couple of smaller AJs while here, just nothing near legal size. So finally, with a handful of baits in the live well, we run out to the Lulu to try for a quick limit of legal size greater amberjack. After culling through a couple of smaller ones, one of my larger bait porgies produces a nice amberjack. The Lulu is a 271-foot freighter that was sunk as a reef project in 2013 and is a popular spot for divers as well as recreational fishermen. Sitting in a depth of about 120 feet at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, the wheelhouse has about a 50-foot elevation off the bottom of the Gulf, making it an excellent structure attracting a large variety of fish, including an assortment of snapper and jack species, as well as triggerfish, grouper, barracudas, sharks, and more. It is located about 17 miles south of Perdido Pass in Orange Beach, Alabama, and is one of many wreck reefs listed on many fishing and diving literature, as well as is included on many newer boating, GPS mapping, and navigational software. If you are having a hard time finding information on fishing and diving reefs and structure, you can find a listing and downloadable coordinates on the Outdoor Alabama website at www.outdooralabama.com and look under saltwater fishing. Then click on Artificial Reefs, which will take you to a page with links and listings, information, and downloadable files you can copy to an SD card and put on your GPS navigational electronics. Having gotten our first of 2 allowable fish on the boat, our bag limit being 1 per person per day, we set up for our second fish. Teresa's not prepared for battling one of these fish by herself, so she leaves it to me to catch our last one. In addition to our daily limit of 1 fish per person, the regulations regarding size is 34 inches fork length, the fork being the shortest part of the inside crescent of the tail on the fish when measuring from the nose. If you are unsure of the regulations of the fish you're targeting, it is best to inquire a dependable source like a local marine fisheries, conservation office, or marine police office. Also be warned that size restrictions, bag limitations, as well as opening and closing of game fish seasons can and do change periodically, so make sure your information is current on the regulations and laws. There's nothing else that might ruin your day like receiving a citation and a hefty fine for possession of a species you harvested out of season or undersized. Now that we have our daily allowed harvest for greater amberjack, we're ready to head in, clean up, and relax for a while. That was a real workout for me. That'll about conclude this episode of Badonsky Buccaneers Video Fishing Report. We hope you've enjoyed it and found it informative as well as entertaining. Be sure to patronize your locally owned small businesses like The Rod Room, custom fishing rod building and repair, visual effects and vinyl solutions, signs, design, embroidery, and promotions, Sam's Stop and Shop, fishing equipment, apparel, deli, and more, BCM Services, plumbing and condominium maintenance services. Follow us on Facebook and be sure to visit our website for useful boating and fishing information for the coastal Alabama area, including Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. Be sure to join us next time. Have a great day and God bless.